long life, good health, and success.
Thank you. In closing, let's bring all the divine vibrations from all the players into the heart. Let our awareness rest in the heart for a minute, magnifying these vibrations. Let's have the thought that the divine vibrations of compassion, kindness, love, devotion, and harmony from all these prayers are going outside the body into all human beings in the world, plants, animals. Let the inner light light up the whole world. This is the inner meaning of Deepavali. Now we will use the inner light to light up the external light lamps that we have. Thank you and have a wonderful Diwali, everybody.
why Gandhi's likeness is above my head every time I appear on television. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it.
Congressman, you have to light the dia, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Clyburn. It means a lot to us, your presence here and your moving remarks. I'd now like to introduce Congresswoman Judy Chu. Please, welcome.
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, Chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. And I'm so happy to be celebrating Diwali together right here on Capitol Hill. Each year, I look forward to celebrating this festival of lights. It's always so meaningful to see the Hindu community, members of Congress, and so many others celebrating the triumph of light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, and good over evil. But because of the pandemic, all of these celebrations had to be canceled or go virtual last year, and that's why it means so much to see all of you here celebrating in person and to feel the light and the support of the community together. So I really want to thank Indiaspora for your leadership in making this happen. As we begin to near the end of the pandemic, thanks to the American Rescue Plan and increased access to vaccines, it truly feels like we're celebrating light over darkness. And that has a lot to do with changes that happened down the road at the White House. Finally, after a year where xenophobia and racist slurs led to historic increases in anti-Asian hate, we have a president, Joe Biden, who took action in his very first week in office to condemn the anti-Asian hate crimes and include a response to hate crimes, followed by the signing that he did at the White House of the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. But not only are AAPI issues being talked about at the highest levels, we're also seeing changes in our representation. After years of being nearly invisible, I'm so proud that there are a record number of 21 AAPI members of Congress, our highest number ever. And of those, we have the highest number of Indian American leaders in our history as members of Congress. Yes. Such as, of course, the incredible Ami Bera, who is the longest serving Indian American member of Congress, and Ro Khanna and Raja Krishnamoorthi and Pramila Jayapal, whom I think you've seen her on television a lot recently, right? Well, President Biden is also ushering in a new era of Asian Americans, especially Indian American representation. For instance, he named Dr. Vivek Murthy to serve on his cabinet as the Surgeon General. How about that? And just last week, he made the historic move to name Neera Tanden as the White House Staff Secretary, one of the highest positions in the White House. And of course, just 1 year ago, we shattered one of the highest glass ceilings of all when Kamala Harris, the daughter of an Indian immigrant, was sworn in as the first woman, Asian, and Black vice president in history. So thank you all. I wish you a very happy and meaningful Diwali, and I hope that as we move forward, we can all share in the light of love and compassion.
Thank you so much. We'd be honored to have you light one of the diyas. If I could give you a candle. Please go ahead. you so much. Really appreciate you being here. It means a lot to us. Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Chu. Great to have you here. And you mentioned Neera Tandon, Vivek Murthy, and we'll be hearing from them quite shortly. I think they're on their way as we speak. Allow me now to have the pleasure and privilege of introducing from Ohio the co-chair, the Republican co-chair of the India caucus in the House, Congressman Steve Chabot.
Thank you, and good evening. This is a bipartisan event. I'm here with some of my Democratic colleagues. I happen to be a Republican, and it's wonderful to be here. It's especially wonderful to be here to celebrate Diwali with you in my role as the chair and the ranking member of the entities that were just mentioned. This festival celebration, as it's been mentioned already, is victory of good over evil and light over darkness and justice over injustice and friendship over indifference. The growing U.S.-India partnership will contribute to such a world, whether it's through closer security cooperation or trade or education or public health or people-to-people interactions. Deeper ties between our two democracies, the largest democracy on earth, India, and the United States. It will contribute to peace and prosperity for our peoples and for our neighbors all across the globe. America will benefit from a greater participation by the Indian American diaspora, and Americans in my congressional district back in Ohio, back in the Cincinnati area. They're an extremely welcoming community, and we've built a very strong relationship, and I've had the honor to speak at a number of Diwali celebrations over the years. Indian Americans, like my good friend Ami Bera, have so much to contribute, and your advocacy and involvement is most welcome. So I hope that we'll continue to work together over the years, hopefully in a bipartisan manner as much as possible. Thank you all for inviting me to this wonderful Diwali celebration. God bless. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. May I now continue the program by having the pleasure of introducing a congresswoman from New York who has been a big friend of the Indian American community. And Representative Maloney, I'm sure you remember me from 2008 when I used to work at the Joint Economic Committee. No, just kidding. You were the leader on the committee, and I remember your legislation well. But welcome, and we'd look forward to your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening to everyone. I'm delighted to join you for the Diwali celebration honoring Indian Americans in public service. And it is a true statement to our country's bright future that so many Indian Americans have found their way into the Biden administration. And across our nation, including our incredible Vice President, our nation's Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, exceptional individuals such as the Department of State's Undersecretary for Civilian Security, Democracy, and Human Rights, Uza Razeha, underscores the Indian traditions of respect for humanity and the advancement of peace throughout the world. In addition to Ami Bera, many Indian Americans also serve in Congress, including with me on my Committee on Oversight and Reform, including my good friends Ro Khanna, Chairman of the Subcommittee on the Environment, Raja Krishnamoorthi, Chair of the Subcommittee on Economic and Consumer Policy, and of course our head of the Congressional Caucus, Pramila Jayapal. Beyond Washington, there are multitudes of Indian Americans in public service. In my state of New York, we elected for the first time New York State Assemblyman and woman Jennifer Rajkumar and Assemblyman Kevin Thomas, who became the first Indian American to serve in the New York State Senate in 2018. Their contributions and leadership are so important to our great state. But it's not enough just to honor those who enter public service. We must continue to do our part to ensure that the significant cultural contributions of the Indian American community are given honor and importance in our country. And I'm proud to have advanced that recognition. In 2010, I made sure that Sikh recruits to the Army could wear their articles of faith, their turban. Literally had the law changed for the Army. They just changed it for the Marines this year. And if they're serving our country, they should certainly be able to honor their religion too. And with the work of M.R. Rangaswamy, we worked together for years to ensure that Diwali was honored with the United States Postal Service. It was a really difficult time. We had to get thousands of signatures, meetings, legislation, and when it finally became a stamp, it became one of the most successful, if not the most successful selling stamp in the history of the United States Postal Office, really gaining millions of dollars. Last time I looked at it, had raised over $8 million for the U.S. Postal Service. And as we go forward, I think that James Clyburn spoke so beautifully about Mahatma Gandhi, and he inspired Martin Luther King, he inspired Nelson Mandela, and both of them said that they were inspired in their work by Gandhi. Both of them have received the Congressional Gold Medal, which is the greatest medal that we can give in Congress. And I think it's long past due that Mahatma Gandhi should receive the Congressional Medal, and I have introduced that legislation this year on his anniversary, and we need to pass that and get that done. And as we close our out to 2021, I plan to introduce legislation that would further enshrine this day of light, Diwali, as a federal holiday. So thank you to the great Indian American public servants who keep our society prosperous, safe, and the greatest nation in the world. It's so befitting that the world's largest democracy, India, and the world's oldest democracy should be such great allies and friends. Thank you for standing today to honor the many Indian Americans in public service in our country, in the Biden administration, across our great country. Thank you for all of your contributions to America. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman.
I get the privilege of introducing two honorable guests who are both friends. First of all, the better looking of the Castro brothers, Joaquin Castro. You'll see him when he comes on stage. But Congressman Castro, obviously San Antonio from Texas, a extraordinary and passionate individual and campaigner. And of course, the person who invented the term, the Samosa Caucus, the invention, who also went around knocking on doors near Chicago and in the environs asking for votes and saying, my name is Krishnamoorthi, and he has to tell you the story of what that means. Raja Krishnamoorthi. So Congressman Castro, would you come up, please? And then you can light it there, and then Congressman Krishnamoorthi.
Good evening, everyone. And I wanted to say how happy I am to be here with all of you celebrating Diwali and to be with so many incredible public servants from the Indian American community. Raja Krishnamoorthi and I actually not only serve in the Intelligence Committee together, but we graduated from Harvard Law School together. So I taught him everything that he knows. I'm just kidding. If anything, it would be the other way around. But also to serve with Ami Bera. Ami and I both came in the class of 2013, and Pramila Jayapal, of course, and so many wonderful folks who serve as local elected officials and state elected officials. I come from the great state of Texas. I represent the Maine San Antonio district, and I hope that you have a chance someday to visit the Diwali celebration in San Antonio, because we actually have one of the largest celebrations in all of the country. And I know that we're celebrating Indian Americans in public service, but I also wanted to take, and usually when we think of public service, we think of elected officials. And the Indian American community that's growing in Texas is electing its first school board members often, and state legislators, city council members, just as communities are across the country. But I think that we should also take a moment to acknowledge that it's not just elected officials that make a difference in public service, it's also the many staff members who work in the offices in Congress and in city halls and in state legislatures, at school boards across the country. And I want to acknowledge my subcommittee director. I serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'm the chair of the Subcommittee on International Organizations, International Development, and Global Corporate Social Impact. And my subcommittee director is Sid Ravishankar, whose family is from Chennai, and who invited me here today, but unfortunately didn't tell me that I was going to have to speak when I came here. So thank you, Sid, for all of your incredible work. You just got to let me know that I'm going to speak next time. But thank you all very much, and it's great to be with you all.
Can I now have the privilege of having Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois?
Good evening. It's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be someplace they pronounce your name right. You know, when I first ran for office, I've mentioned this to Vivek, but I was knocking on doors, as Shaker mentioned, and I said to people, my name is Raja Krishnamoorthi, and people would say, Raja Krishnamoorthi, what does it mean? Where did you get that name, and what the heck does it mean? So I said it's very simple. Translated from an ancient Indian language, it means Congressman for the 8th District of Illinois. And so here I am in the job of my dreams, and I'm so honored to be with you. I want to observe those 3 rules of public speaking: be short, be sweet, and be gone. 3 points I want to make. Can you give a big round of applause to MR, the whole Indiaspora committee, all the sponsors, all the other organizations that have come together today to put on this one. I can't hear you. There's just no enthusiasm. That's a little better. Second point, Happy Diwali. Happy Diwali. What a festive time for us. This year, I've talked to, it's part of my job to talk to a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people in the Indian American community, and I have to tell you, the spirits are so high this year in the community compared to last year, because we can finally celebrate together. Is that right? Do you feel that? We celebrated Navaratri together. We celebrate Diwali together. It involves our friends and family and our faith. And it involves a time when we can count our blessings and also wish each other a happy new year ahead. And remember the people who may not be with us. And this year, it's a poignant time in that regard. So I thank you for celebrating together. The third and final point is this. You know, I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I would be here with you in this capacity. When I was growing up, my father said to me, Raja, you can do anything you want to be in life. And Surgeon General Murthy, you can maybe relate. My father said to me, Raja, you can be a mechanical engineer, a civil engineer, a computer engineer, electrical engineer, or a doctor. And so I ended up getting a BS in mechanical engineering. Of course, everyone says I practice the BS part now. But the point is that now I'm here. And my job and my duty, part of my job description, is to bring more people along. Isn't that right? More and more and more people into public service so they can be the next Surgeon General, so they can be the next Cabinet Secretary, so they can be whoever they want to be in life. But I also say to all of you, it's time to run for office. And so I say to you, perhaps you, your children, or one of your friends or family, I see people from Impact here, my good friend Neil, maybe you can run for city council. Maybe you can run for state house, maybe state senate. Maybe one of you or your children or loved ones can run for the U.S. Congress, though please not in my congressional district. But anywhere else, we'll be so delighted and we'll be rooting for you and supportive of you. And all these organizations, whether it's Impact or HAF or whether it's Shakers, Victory Fund or Indiaspora, everybody will be behind you. You know why? It doesn't matter whether you lose, you win, you take the gold medal, or you take the silver medal, which I have in the past. It's that you ran, and you did it for the right reasons to serve the community. Am I right about that? Yeah. And we are going to be behind you. So I just want to close with my favorite saying. Yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. I'm so honored and blessed to be with you here for just a few short minutes of your precious time to celebrate you, to celebrate Diwali, and to celebrate how we together are going to make America and the world a better place. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless America, and Jai Hind.
Okay, everyone, I'm back. I'm giving Sanjeev a break, but also insisted I introduce the next speaker. We are celebrating tonight Indian Americans in public service. Like Raja joked, you know, you can become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or whatever. I think Indian Americans are breaking bounds, are breaking the rules and getting into areas that Indian Americans haven't gone to before. And one of them is public service. This is not something our parents or we as immigrants, when we came to this country, told our kids to do. They were supposed to get well educated, get a good job, get married, have kids, and then we're settled. So we moved from that to now where a lot of the next generation of Indian Americans are getting into public service. And Indiaspora has been an inspiration and catalyst to make this happen. I think Raja talked about the political side of things. As a nonpartisan organization, we encourage, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, to really run for office as Indian Americans. And this was true in 2020, November. Would you believe over 300 Indian Americans ran for office? 300 that we could count, okay? So it's a long way from when Ami Bera became our congressman in 2012, was the first one. And we always used to say we're 1% of the population, 7% of the doctors, 10% of the IT workforce, but zero representation in Congress. Till Ami joined us, and quickly we had Pramila and Ro and Raja. And Pramila and Ro are coming, by the way. You'll hear from them as well. But the Biden administration now, every administration you see more and more Indian Americans in the administration. But we've never really documented them. There'd be a little newspaper article or something. This cycle, we set about to really track every single one of them. And if you go to the Indiaspora website, lists.indiaspora.org, you will see a list. I think right now, there are probably 80 Indian Americans in the Biden administration, at least 80. That's an incredible number. And this is indicative of our community, working for very small wages to be in these jobs. So it's not a Goldman Sachs job with $500,000 in income. These are not those kinds of jobs, but they really provide a lot of gratification. So I met our next guest, I think many years ago when he was nominated for Surgeon General the first time around. And we're so pleased. The first time I met him, I had a bond with him and said, this is someone who can be a role model for our entire community. And so I'm so pleased to introduce, for the second time, Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy.
Well, thank you so much, MR. I really appreciate those kind words. And it is so good to see so many of you here today. Happy Diwali to everyone who's assembled. MR mentioned my first appointment as Surgeon General during the Obama administration. I want to share with you just a personal experience that took place then, which always will stay with me for the rest of my life. It was when I was going through my change of command ceremony, which is a formal swearing in, where you take command of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps Surgeon General. And it was an important moment for me and for my family. My grandmother also had come. She's now close to 90. She was in a wheelchair, and it was difficult to come with her health problems, but she came all the way from Miami, Florida to Washington, D.C. for the change of command ceremony. And as we were there in the green room, right about to begin the ceremony, then Vice President Biden came in to join. He was the one who was going to be swearing me in. And he saw my grandmother there in her wheelchair, and he walked up to her and got down on one knee. And he held her hand and looked into her eyes, and he said, "Grandma, it is so good to meet you." And he pointed to the nearly 1,000 people who had assembled there, family members, friends, administration officials, Commission Corps officers, and others, and reflecting on the journey that our family had taken from a small farming village in India to now to that stage where I was about to be sworn in as Surgeon General of the United States, he said, "Grandma, look at what you have done." And what a powerful moment that was for me, because in it he acknowledged the journey that so many of our families have gone through. I look at this crowd and I think of us as the improbables, the people who have gone through unimaginable journeys, whose families have made extraordinary sacrifices, and yet have defied the odds to end up where you are today. That is the gift that America has given so many of us. And as I think about that day so often, because the world has changed so much since then. We have, for the last almost 2 years, been in the midst of a pandemic that has turned our lives upside down. Many of us, myself included, have sustained losses of family and friends. I know many of you have as well, whether it's family here, family back in India, or in the diaspora around the world. We have suffered heavy losses. But one of the things that concerns me most about the last few years is another type of pandemic, an invisible pandemic that we are in the midst of. And that's a pandemic of polarization, where it feels increasingly people have turned against each other, where they've demonized one another, where they've called each other evil and treated each other as so. That's a particular kind of darkness. And on Diwali today, a day that is supposed to be about light conquering darkness, I remember what my mother taught me about light all those years ago when I was growing up, and she was teaching me about the Hindu scriptures and teaching me how to meditate and bringing our family together to pray. She would always say, "Vivek, people you encounter in America will come from different faiths and different traditions, but remember that the light of God exists within each one of them, always, regardless of where they're from." When I think about Diwali, I think about it in that context. Can we remember the light that exists within ourselves and one another? Can we not allow it? Can we not allow that light to be expunged because we happen to be on the other side of the political spectrum as somebody else or hold different views from them? This is as much a challenge here as it is back in India and in many countries around the world, yet it is the challenge that we are asked to take on. And it strikes me that if we forget that other people have light within them, that divine light, that's when it becomes easy to demonize them. But it's also true that too often we forget our own light. We can get down on ourselves. We can be hard on ourselves, thinking that we're not doing enough, we're not being enough, we're failing to meet the moment. But the truth is, darkness comes not when our light is snuffed out. It comes when we lose sight of the fact that our light is always there. And that's what we're called to remember on a day like today. Finally, I think about Diwali in the context of my children. I have two children, Tejas and Shanti. They're 5 and 3.5. They mean the world to me, just like every parent looks at their children and holds them at the center of their lives. And I think about what I want for them when they grow up. Well, I want a world where not only are they confident of who they are and what gives them value, but where other people treat them with the same dignity and respect that we should afford to every human being, because everyone has that divine light within them. And I want my children to grow up in a world where their sense of worth is defined by the fact that they have that light within them at all times, which means that they have the ability to be kind, to be compassionate, to love others, and to serve their fellow human beings. That is what our light gives us the ability to do. That is what confers true value on every human being. But society today teaches us that our worth is dependent on our ability to earn lots of money, to hold positions of high power, to be famous. But you and I know plenty of people who are famous, who are wealthy, and who are powerful, and who are extraordinarily unhappy. We do not want our children to end up that way. And that only happens if we take what I believe is the fundamental lesson of Diwali, which is to recognize and to remember our light and the light of others, and to focus on that. That is our charge today, at a time where the world has been turned upside down by this pandemic and is afflicted by the other pandemic of polarization. Now, I'll finally tell you that yesterday, something unexpected happened to me. I got a call from my mother in the evening, and she was panicked. And she said to me, something is wrong with Avu. That's what we call my grandmother, comes from the Telugu Ava. She said, something's wrong, she's not responding. And she immediately put me on FaceTime, and I looked at my grandmother and I knew something was wrong. She looked like her mental status was altered, she wasn't fully responsive, and her eyes were starting to roll back in her head. I was worried something was happening. Maybe she was having a stroke. 25 years ago, she had a terrible stroke and almost died. And so I said, call 911 now. And fortunately, we were able to get her to the hospital, and she was able to recover well enough that we were able to bring her back home. But my mother said in those moments where she thought that this was the last moments that she would see my grandmother said one thing in her state of delirium, which remains with me, and what I was thinking about when I was walking over here, is she said, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Many of you have heard that. Many of you have recited that many times. Many of you know what that means. But Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, let the entire world and all the people in it be happy. That was her final wish in what she thought was her final moment. And that is my wish for you on this Diwali day, that you remember the light within you, that you remember the unbreakable connection we have to one another, because we are children of that divine spirit. We have that light within us. And my hope is on this day and on all days that follow, that you and your families will find happiness and peace. Thank you so much, and happy Diwali.
And by the way, we have made Indiaspora pins for all those in public service. And I want to have the privilege of giving my good friend, Dr. Vivek Murthy, one of these, but there are many other people here in the administration, in the White House, staffers on Capitol Hill. We have these pins for you. So please take one of these, see one of our Indiaspora team members. We'll be happy to give you one, and I have the honor of presenting one to Dr. Murthy. Thank you. And now we're going to, in the spirit of Diwali that Dr. Murthy so eloquently put together, we have someone who just walked in, and we want to have our Congresswoman from the great state of Washington, Pramila Jayapal, the leader of the Progressive Caucus, I'm told. I'm not from Washington, so I don't know these things, but she's one of my good friends, so it doesn't matter. Please welcome Pramila.
Thank you so much, and happy Diwali, everybody. I'm so proud to be with you today and grateful to Indiaspora and all of you for coming to celebrate here on the Hill. This is one of the very special memories that I have. As most of you know, I was born in India, and I came to the United States when I was 16 years old by myself, and I'm very proud. My parents still live in India. I'm very proud to say that I'm the first South Asian American woman ever elected to the United States House of Representatives. And hopefully I'm not going to be the last, and there are going to be many, many more of us to come. But I was thinking about, just my memories of Diwali and my own culture, really, because this has been a rough several months with health for my family, with a lot of very high-stakes negotiation. Yes, we're going to get both bills passed, I promise you, both the Build Back Better Act and the bipartisan infrastructure deal. And it's been a real honor to spend time with the president over the last couple of weeks and to work on getting his agenda through Congress. But one of the things that happened is, as I was looking for my places of sustenance, and I always think of Diwali as a time of sustenance. It was always one of my favorite times when I was growing up because we had incredible food, first of all, always really, really good food. We had, of course, the lights. It was a community event in all of the beautiful ways that we think of Diwali. But the other thing that has given me sustenance is my prayers. And when I was very little, my grandmother taught me a whole series of prayers that I have never forgotten. And so for the last 3 months or so, for some reason, these prayers have been emerging for me again and again. And some of you may know them. Namah Shivaya, Narayana Namah, Chidaya Namah, Anandaya Namah, Govindaya Namah, Gopaldaya Namah. I was able to recite them over and over, and the sustenance that I get from that has reminded me of what culture means for us. What it means for us to be raised in a different culture, to come to the United States, to find the mix and the meld of cultures, and to find the sustenance in the things that we grew up with that made us who we are today. And that's why I think the work of Indiaspora is so important. That's why I think it's so important for us to celebrate Diwali. Not only for the specifics of light and goodness triumphing over darkness and hate, not only that, which is really the crux of this day for us, but also what it means for us to be able to celebrate those moments of community, of family, of sustenance, of grounding. And so it's always a great honor to come and be here. I'm thrilled that, of course, I have Indian American fellow Congress members here, and Vivek Murthy is one of my all-time favorite, I don't know, telling me it's time to stop. Okay. Vivek Murthy is one of my all-time favorite people. We are so lucky to have him as our Surgeon General. And I just want to say to you that from my parents in India to me here in the United States Congress, happy Diwali. May it be prosperous, may it be joyful, may it be peaceful, may it bring us the solace, the solitude, and the community that we all deserve and desire every minute of every day. Thank you so much, and happy Diwali.
And now to kind of what Dr. Murthy talked about, Diwali and joy and celebrations. I'm here with a dear friend from the African American community. Again, like Representative Clyburn talked about, being very engaged, involved in India, Indian culture, Indian philosophy, and so forth. We are very privileged to have with us a singer who sang the Indian national anthem for one of our events, and it went viral. And since then, she has a repertoire of songs. And for tonight, she's got a song that I hope all of us can sing along. All of us will know the song. So please welcome my good friend, Mary Milben.
Well, how about we take a moment and clap for MR? Don't you love MR? Come on, let's hear it, let's hear it. It takes a great leader like MR to lead such a great organization like Indiaspora. Let me just say what a joy it is to be here with all of you this evening. Namaste, first of all, namaste to everyone. I tell you, MR is such a dear friend, and Sanjeev and all of the team at Indiaspora, I call them family because they are my family. I call India my family. You are my family. Yes? You can clap. That's right. Over these last several years, COVID, since COVID year, having the wonderful opportunity to sing India's national anthem and last year be a part of singing for Diwali, I tell you, India has truly become my family and my friends. And so it's a joy to be here in the nation's capital to celebrate this wonderful, spiritual and beautiful holiday that so many speakers have already talked on. So I won't repeat their words, but it is a beautiful moment for cultures and faiths to come together and celebrate during this moment. Light over darkness, the beauty of this beautiful holiday. So this is a song that you all know well, so I'm going to have you stand up. You've been sitting a long time, so come on, stand up, stand up. I know this is a prayer, a song that you all sing in your homes, some of you probably daily, and it was such a joy to be able to sing this song for India and all across the world last year, and so I'm honored to be here to sing it tonight. So you have to sing it with me, don't be shy. So everybody back there talking, when I come to sing in DC, nobody talks when I sing, so we only sing together, right? That's right. All right, here we go. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare. You can clap. Swami Jaya Jagadish Hare. Bhakta Jano ke Sankata Dase Jano ke Sankata Shaname Dura Kare. Yours is better than mine. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare. Okay, now a little bit more energy. Come on. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare. Swami Jaya Jagadish Hare. Bhakta Jano ke Sankata Dase Jano ke Sankata Shaname Dura Kare. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare. Om Jaya Jagadish Hare. Well, give yourselves a hand. You can be seated. God bless you all. Joy to be here tonight. I told MR, I said, what I'm so excited about is I'm going to India for my first time in January. And when I go, I will be thinking about all of you while I'm there. So God bless you all.
And thank you, Mary. That was a rousing song there to kind of liven us up. And to liven us up even more is someone from my home state of California. And Ro, I got to know Ro, I think in 2003. In my 20s. When he was in his 20s. And been a friend and a mentor to him for a long, long time. And so we're very proud of him in California and also nationally. Here is Representative Ro Khanna.
Thank you, MR. Happy Diwali. I walked in right with the Aarti, an auspicious time to come in. MR is the first person who I met about politics. And at the time, I had the crazy idea of running against the war in Iraq, and almost no one was meeting with me. And MR sat down, he talked to me, talked to my parents. He opened so many doors for me. I don't say this with any exaggeration. I wouldn't be here in Congress if it weren't for him. So thank you for your mentorship and friendship, not just to me, but to so many Indian Americans. I am so proud to see such an amazing turnout here. Has the Indian American community arrived now in Washington? Do you remember the time where people used to have a hard time getting an appointment with a legislative aide or with a scheduler? You know, now if they can't get at me within 24 hours, they start getting texts. Why aren't you returning my calls? So we've come a long way as a community. We've come a long way where someone can easily say today, as I do, that I'm a proud Hindu American, that I'm proud of celebrating Diwali, that the Hindu American culture has enriched America and the world. And these were things that were not easy to say decades ago. And it's because of all of your activism and an initiative that we've gotten to this point. Let me just finally reflect with Diwali itself. You know, obviously I grew up watching the Ramayan videos. Did anyone else do that? My parents made me do that. They made me watch the entire story on video. There are so many lessons from that about how to be a good brother or father or son. But what stuck with me the most is resilience, is a sense of 14 years in the wilderness and then a sense of returning, a sense of triumph, a sense of overcoming obstacles. And this is a time where our world needs that, with all of the obstacles, with COVID, with the violence, with so many things that seem wrong. The eternal spirit, the human spirit of resilience and what Gandhi said were age-old truths still resonate. You know, Gandhi said, I have nothing new to teach the world. The truth is as old as the hills. And the Ramayana has as much significance today as it did thousands of years ago. Those are the eternal truths of goodness, kindness, resilience. So it's wonderful to celebrate with all of you. I'm honored to be here, honored to be a representative of many people, but in a district that has the largest Indian American community in the nation. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you.
So it's been fantastic. Thank you all for listening and for being here, and we've had a great series of speakers. Next year is Indiaspora's 10th year. It's our 10th anniversary, and you can bet that we'll be back with our partners and our partner organizations and with all of you here again next year. Thanks all for being here, and enjoy the food, enjoy the drinks, and we'll be back with you in case some more elected officials or government representatives come our way. Thank you.